You know that moment when a conversation ends and everyone seems energized, but you feel strangely tired. Nothing dramatic happened. No conflict. No awkward silence. Just people talking, laughing, sharing stories. And yet something inside you quietly wants to step away. Maybe to another room. Maybe outside. Maybe just into your own thoughts for a while. Not because you dislike people, but because something in you feels full. Most people never notice this difference. The world tends to assume that social energy works the same for everyone. That more interaction equals more connection, more happiness, more life. So when someone pulls back, declines invitations, or stays quiet in a group, the explanations arrive quickly. Shy, antisocial, awkward, too serious, sometimes even rude. And after hearing those labels enough times, a strange doubt can appear. A quiet question in the back of the mind. Am I doing something wrong? But there's a pattern underneath this that most people were never taught to see. And once you notice it, a lot of past moments suddenly make sense. This is the psychology of introversion. Not the stereotype, not the internet version, the real one. For a long time, people thought introversion was mostly about personality or confidence, but psychology and neuroscience have been painting a more interesting picture. Your brain processes stimulation differently. Social interaction is full of signals, voices, facial expressions, tone changes, subtle emotions, shifting attention. For some nervous systems, all of that is stimulating in a pleasant way. Their brains release reward chemicals that make the experience energizing. But research from psychologists like Jerome Kagan and later work on arousal sensitivity suggests that some brains react more strongly to incoming information. Not emotionally, neurologically. The signals simply register more intensely. So while one person experiences a lively conversation, another person experiences a dense stream of input that the brain is carefully analyzing, filtering, and storing. It's not discomfort. It's depth of processing. And depth uses energy, which is why stepping away afterward doesn't feel like avoidance. It feels like recovery. Brain imaging studies have even shown that introverted people tend to rely more on internal processing networks. The pathways linked with reflection, memory, and meaning-making stay more active. In simple terms, the mind is busy on the inside, often while appearing quiet on the outside. This is why someone might leave a gathering and then replay the entire conversation hours later. Not out of anxiety, but out of natural cognitive habit. The brain keeps working long after the room goes silent. For many people, this pattern didn't suddenly appear in adulthood. It formed slowly, maybe in childhood classrooms where louder voices filled the space first, maybe in families where observation felt safer than interruption, maybe during years where understanding people quietly was more useful than competing for attention. The nervous system adapts to environments like this. It learns to watch, to read, to process. Over time, that style of engaging with the world becomes automatic. Not forced, just familiar. And because our culture often celebrates visibility, speed, and constant interaction, this quieter way of processing life can look unusual from the outside. But unusual doesn't mean wrong. It simply means different wiring. Extroverted nervous systems tend to regulate themselves through outward activity. Interaction increases energy. Introverted nervous systems regulate through periods of inward focus. Energy returns in solitude. Neither pattern is superior. They are just two different ways the human brain maintains balance. A forest has ecosystems that thrive in sunlight, and others that grow best in shade. Both belong to the same environment. Human temperament works in a similar way. Something interesting happens when people begin to understand this difference. Many past memories shift meaning. That lunch break spent alone suddenly stops looking like loneliness. That quiet role in group discussions stops looking like invisibility. That need to leave early from crowded events stops feeling like failure. Instead, those moments start to look like a nervous system quietly protecting its equilibrium. There's also a paradox hidden inside introversion that people rarely talk about. The same sensitivity that makes overstimulation possible also allows for unusual depth. Introverted individuals often notice patterns in conversations that others miss, subtle changes in tone, the emotional undercurrent beneath words, the pauses that reveal what someone almost said, not because they're trying to analyze people, but because their brain naturally processes detail. This can create deep friendships, careful thinking, and creative insight. At the same time, it comes with a quiet cost. Living in a fast, noisy world can feel like trying to read a book in a crowded room. You can do it, but it requires more energy than most people realize. So the need for space isn't rejection, it's recalibration. And once people understand that about themselves, something softens. The pressure to perform a louder version of their personality slowly fades. The long pauses in conversations stop feeling like mistakes. Even silence becomes comfortable again. Because the truth is, nothing about this pattern suggests something is broken. It suggests a nervous system that processes deeply, notices quietly, and restores itself in stillness. For some people, the world feels most real when it slows down enough to think. If any part of this feels familiar, there are more patterns like this hiding in everyday behavior. Small things people have experienced their whole lives without ever hearing them explained. And sometimes understanding them changes the way you see yourself entirely. If you want to keep exploring these quiet, psychological patterns together, you can subscribe and stay for the next one.